Okay, next up, we have Mark Lavery, the Chief Exec of Cambria Automobiles. Mark, can you tell us about how Cambria approaches its used car business through your Velocity program, and also perhaps just give us an indication of just how important used car sales are to the Cambria business?
Hi, good afternoon, Curtis. Good afternoon to the audience. Listen, I share an awful lot of what Philip's just talked through there, and I think the key word alongside transparency is it builds trust. And if you haven't got trust with a consumer that ideally you want to turn into a guest, and get that guest to make contact with you, the only way you're going to do that is give absolute price transparency. What we've tried to do at Cambria is make sure that we put the investment into searching for the right vehicle in the first place. Our best source of used cars is frankly the cars that we bring in part exchange. We still have some of the challenges that I'm sure our audience will recognise. As far as I'm concerned, we shouldn't have sales specialists, sales execs, even senior sales execs appraising our guests' part exchanges. That should be done by management. It should be a business manager and it should be a sales manager. If we're going to be transparent, we need to be absolutely clear what we've invested in the first place. We must be offering at market rate at the absolute top. And if we put that extra effort into appraising the consumer stroke guest part exchange, then by the time we've got it into our environment, into our inventory, we should take a maximum of 48 hours before the vehicle is offered for sale. And then it's how we offer it for sale. And I think the days, Curtis, of, we'd take a car into part exchange and 0 to 30 days, we'd leave the price alone. Those days are long gone. And I think we're in a position now where when a vehicle has been offered to the market for 7 days, you should be checking that vehicle every 24 hours just to see what's happened locally, just to see what's happened nationally, and make sure that we're in a position where, because we're transparent, because we've got that trust, we have a real high possibility, nay probability, to turn that consumer into a guest. Now, actually, a key part of this process is making sure that when the guest does make an inquiry, that we respond very quickly. And it's not just the initial response, which I think as an industry we're good at, it's the quality of that response. And the quality and making sure that your sales executives understands exactly what they are offering, because the guests will expect us to be at least as informed as they are. Now, if we can do all those things, it leads to our velocity trading principles. And what I've basically done here is given you some information sort of over the last 5 years that we've been on the program. So in our last financial year, our average days in stock was 25.7 across the 12 months against an industry average of 57. I think in an uncertain market, 25.7 is still too high. Our return on investment at 138% plus, can't hide from it. It was a dip from the year before, and that's actually down to more premium cars, which doesn't necessarily mean you can get a premium return. But as long as we've made sure that once we've invested in the first place, because we've sourced it properly, we've appraised it properly, we've made sure it's offered inside 48 hours, we've presented it and priced it in a transparent manner so the consumer views it and trusts us enough to make contact. If we then make sure that we respond quickly with a high quality response, and it may not be that first response that gives you the opportunity to transact. It may be the second, third, or fourth response. One of the challenges that we have is the first response is good. We've then just got to stay really close to that guest relationship and make sure that we do embrace those velocity principles on an absolutely consistent basis so it becomes a way of life. If we've planned for the life of the car from day one, then we shouldn't be taking, should we say, guesses. So those speculative cars that we may have taken in the past, and it may be quite a funky colour, it may be quite a funky spec, there may be some unusual extras on. Those days where you could take a punt, they're long gone, because we're a data-driven industry now. And when we present to the city and we show the trading screens that we work from, you can see that the city traders recognise them because there's red and green. And green is quite simple. It's market price or just a little bit below, and red is above. And be clear, if it's red, the consumer isn't going to make contact with you. Now, if you're not getting the opportunity to contact, then you've got no chance of forming a relationship. A relationship will come based on the transparency that you provide, based on the confidence that when the consumer makes the contact, making sure that we don't have those speculative cars that we're taking a punt on. And actually, if you have a strong stocking policy with stocking dates and times, for me, one of the biggest areas of weakness for us as an industry is we'll transact with a guest and then we'll leave it a week before the car gets delivered. Once a transaction is done, that guest is open to taking the vehicle inside 48 hours, which is a behaviour we're working very hard to encourage in Cambria. Now, does everybody get it all the time across our organisation? No, not at all. But if we can price transparently, make sure that we've put the absolute effort into sourcing the right product at the right price that's been appraised thoroughly, then actually they're the basics of velocity. And the benefit for velocity is not only to us, but the consumer is absolutely clear and transparent that they know we're confident enough to show our price in comparison to what the rest of the market is. From that trust comes confidence, and from that confidence comes the ability to transact. And actually, I don't think we can swim away from the data. The data is with us. And the more we embrace it, the more clinical we will become, the more knowledgeable we'll become, and not only will we keep up with the guest and the consumer, we can stay just ahead. I do not believe that transparency is a race to the bottom. I'm completely opposite to that. If we're in line with market, your sales team have absolute confidence. Your consumer knows that when they come in, they don't have to negotiate because we're being absolutely transparent, and that's one of the things that we really encourage in our company, Curtis. Are we the finished article? Far from it, and it's a different challenge for each one of our retailers in different locations at different times. But by embracing that data and putting the effort into and understanding the velocity concept, we've done reasonably well on used cars in the last 5 years. And I also think it's the critical part. If you haven't got an efficient used car operation, you've got no chance of achieving your manufacturer's new car objectives. And actually then it becomes a knock-on effect where things become more and more challenging. Key things are transparency, which leads to trust. Trust leads to confidence, not only for the consumer, but your sales execs. And from confidence comes the ability to transact. We've still got a lot more work to do, and we recognise that, but we have some absolutely incredible operations. Actually, the KPIs that I'm sharing with you on this slide, we have a significant number of our businesses that are way, way better than that. That also tells you that we've got a number of our businesses that we can really improve on. So we think that with the data and the transparency, it can lead to huge amounts of opportunity, and we're in uncertain times, that those opportunities are critical that we grasp them as and when they're afforded to us. I hope that helps, Curtis, and gives you a rough idea on what we're up to in Cambria.
Yes, no, excellent. Many thanks for that, Mark. I mean, that's a great overview of the way your group approaches its used car business. So many thanks for that.